Hello, robot.
Hello, singing fox person.
Yes, I'm singing fox person.
Hello again, I am Blunty. So, Mark Zuckerberg recently posted a screen cap from inside of Horizon Worlds. It is one of Meta's efforts to get people excited about the entire VR internet trapped within the ecosystem of Meta's complete and utter control. And Horizon Worlds, formerly Facebook Horizon before the rebrand, tried to escape the toxin that is the Facebook brand and the lack of goodwill people have towards the Facebook brand, because Facebook is poison. So now they're Meta. It's a social and collaborative VR app envisioned to be driven by user-generated content, which the users only build with the supplied tools. And it looked like this. It looked like that. It looked like this. This is a recent screenshot. This is from days ago. Zuckerberg's vision for the future of social VR spaces is a nightmare of bland banality, sucked dry of any and every spark of true humanity, individuality, and personal human expression. This is supposed to be one of the big attractants, one of the tools Zuckerberg wants people to be so enticed by, they'll willingly goose step into his nightmarish late-stage capitalist vision for the Metaverse. A virtual reality network that he controls, his own little internet, free from the ability to escape it to someone else's space, like people might do with simple web pages or apps like, say, Facebook, for example. So roundly and broadly mocked and ridiculed was this pathetic presentation Zuckerberg seemed so proud to show off. A day later, he came back with excuses and promises. A day after an entire day's cycle full of mockery and ridicule and laughter right at his stupid little Android face. Major updates to Horizon and avatar graphics are coming soon, Mark desperately bleated in his robotic refusal to process the concept of human shame. Beep, boop, boop. And to prove it, he posted a new picture, supposedly from this more advanced future of his system, still currently being, tweaked. And it was this. This is the better version. And here's the thing with that. Upgrades to this, the basic corporate generic lifeless beige art style that they're building out from, aren't going to help. You can keep polishing this turd, but it's still going to be a turd. And it's not just the 2002 era, baby's first development cycle on the Nintendo Wii kind of graphics. It's not the lack of detail or shading or textures. Well, it's not just that anyway. It's the fact that it's so clownishly childish and bitch basic, and how utterly stripped of any spirit of personal expression it is. We can see through this. This is corporate sterility packaged. Zuckerberg's vision for the future of social VR spaces is a nightmare of bland, corporate-approved banality, sucked dry of any and every spark of true humanity, individuality, and personal expression. It's a horrifying dystopia in soft, inoffensive pastel colors. Let me read you the blurb from Horizon World's own website right now, pertaining to the current season of events they're using as bait for people. It is an all-access pass to amazing VR content, including big-name music performances, exciting sporting events, cool film experiences, and more. And you never have to leave your house. In other words, they really want to be the one-stop shop for all of your content, and for you to never ever leave not just your house, but their walled garden, where they can control, filter, adjust, censor, and manipulate what you see, when you see it, and how you see it. Mark never wants you to leave his capitalist ecosystem. He wants a private little internet in a way that Facebook so desperately tried to do, but because of the default open nature of the web, they just couldn't do in the purest practical sense of utter control that they very clearly wanted and tried again and again and again to do, but were not only stopped by the practicalities of how the web works, but also, anti-consumer laws and agencies and governments and saying, hey, you're overreaching. Watch it. You see, the problem is, for Mark, sometimes people click away from Facebook to other websites. Sometimes people close down the Facebook app on their phone and open YouTube or TikTok or whatever. And Mark hates that. He doesn't make any money from those. He can't collect any data from those. He wants you on his stuff. And to this end, Mark wants to replace the web with his own ecosystem, one that you won't be able to escape to someone else's capitalist drain from because it is a self-contained little metaverse, if you will. But then again, it does look like this. And this is how Zuckerberg sees Paris and wants you to experience Paris, and how Mark sees himself. This is his version of himself. This is how he believes he looks. And well, okay, look. That might be a little unfair. Granted, this particular avatar is indeed a near photorealistic representation of the semi-humanoid uncanny valley in a vinyl skin suit that is the sociopathic entity called Mark Zuckerberg. But let me assure you, this is not how people want to represent themselves in VR worlds. This is not the template we want to be working from. This dead-eyed mockery of human form is not it. This pale mockery of human individuality, this sterilized, soulless void of a carefully neutered avatar of how capitalists see people. This is how capitalists see people. We're not human to them. We're this product. Mark Zuckerberg looked at this image, seemingly taking it himself. You know, it's a metaverse selfie, if you will, and he decided to show it to people, hoping to get them excited for his metaverse. He thought, this is it. This is what people have been waiting for. This'll get them. A metaverse he intends to be driven by user-generated content being sold to other users. So users make it and they sell it to other users, but who also have plans to charge almost half of the price of any content, wanting a 47.5% cut, and this is confirmed, by the way, here's the quote, a 47.5%, almost half, from every sale in the little ecosystem. Users who make this stuff only get half the value they're selling it for. Now granted, it's not quite as bad as, say, Roblox, but it's not as if that's a shining example of what people want. This, and I only use this term in its loosest sense because his appearance seems to be intended to vaguely align with the form and social expectations of what one looks like, but this man is so completely divorced from reality, from other people, from humanity, from any concept of perspective, that this is his pitch to you, the sentient bags of money he sees you as. Oh, and by the way, this is like the fifth iteration of these avatars he showed the world over the last few years. This is after billions spent and years in development. This is the best. This is what he's got to show you. I suspect perhaps the developers he's got working from him secretly hate him too and are deliberately half-assing it just to see if they can get a human reaction out of him. Some sort of emotion beyond... is greed an emotion? Greed's an emotion, right? Yeah, sure it is. Avarice, that's an emotion. So, let me take you deeper into VRchat. This is what you're watching here is VRchat, by the way. This is the avatar I usually use in VRchat. I rigged it up myself. It's a game file stripped out of Pokemon, and bonus points for anyone who can tell me exactly which Pokemon game this model comes from and what his canonical name is. By the way, it's a real pain in the ass to rig up 2D mouth flaps and eye blinks. Because I don't know how to use Blender, and so it took me days and days and days just to do this much. But I like it. It speaks to me. I've got a few other avatars I use as well, but this is kind of the default one. Anyway, let me take you into VRchat, deeper into VRchat, one of the oldest and by far, and I mean by far, the most popular VR social and collaborative applications on modern VR platforms. It's been around for about 8 years already. It's still being actively and frequently developed and improved. But that said, even 8 years ago, it looked better in its first iterations than Mark's Horizon Worlds does today, after years of development itself. So this is how people want to look in VR if given the choice. And not just a choice, but any choice they like. There's whole worlds of avatars for users to choose from already, in any style, in any size, in any form, literally anything, from humanoid to inanimate objects. I had a conversation with a toaster the other day. Just a little toaster with a face on the side of it. You can be vehicles, you can be animals, you can be a mix between vehicles and animals, or any and every mix you can possibly imagine. If it can be represented in avatar form, you can be it. I've even seen 2D avatars, like literally just a flat plane, a 2D picture. Sometimes they're mated, sometimes not. They sort of hover through the world, and that's fine too, because that's how they want to represent themselves. But let me compare this to one of Horizon World's recent promotional videos, heavily edited, heavily scripted, heavily performed to make it look just as funky, fresh, and human joy emulating as possible. This is their best foot forward, not just some screenshot that Mark, Android, Zuckerberg decided to post up on the internet, but this is what professionals, media professionals decided to present Horizon Worlds as looking like. So, woo, yeah, not stale and horrifically bland at all, filled with legless, floating dime store mannequins that give the very words generic and insipid whole new meanings. Meanwhile, users on the PC platform of VRchat can also make custom avatars like I did. I just told you about mine. I made this. Well, I didn't make the model. The model was stripped out of the game, but I rigged it up and imported it into VRchat, and, I'm the only one with this model because, I did it. So you can make your avatars from scratch, or you can edit existing ones, existing VR avatars or existing ones from games like I did. And if you're clever enough, you can even make worlds. Like almost every world in VRchat is made by the users. This world I'm standing in now, this pretty little sort of Japanese festival street at night with the rain and the glowing neons. This was just a person made this and just uploaded it for people to share. And they can do this sort of stuff because VRchat supports just standard 3D modeling stuff. So Blender and whatever you want to use. You're not restricted to the, in-house tools like Metaverse is. They make these, upload them freely for anyone to share and use. It's a proper community. And even with all of the choice possible, any choice you want to make, you will struggle to find a single person in any of VRchat's worlds and spaces that chooses to represent themselves as a stale, ordinary, regular flavor, day-to-day humanoid avatar of how they actually look, or how just a generic person looks even, much less one so devoid of individualistic personality and expression like Mark wants for us. Now, this free-for-all system does have some drawbacks. Some of the more complicated and detailed avatars, especially the custom ones, just don't work well on the Oculus Rift version of VRchat. And both the PC users and Oculus users can share the same world simultaneously, by the way, but if you're on PC and you've got a customized PC avatar and it's too much for the Oculus system, there's a fallback option for a safe avatar for the Oculus users, so that's built into the system as well, so that's pretty clever. But even then, you get the choice of what your fallback avatar is and looks like. And the standalone headset users can't visit certain worlds with high performance demands, and even some PC users will have trouble in certain worlds that are very, very graphically demanding because their PC might just not be strong enough to run them. So the experience is not exactly completely smooth across the board, but the idea of that complete freedom is what attracts people. And as each custom avatar and indeed the worlds are not preloaded as part of the VRchat install, they just stream down as you need them. With some people's avatars so massive in file size alone, they take some time after joining a world to even appear. You see little loading bars over, basic skeletal representations of where their avatar is, but their avatar won't load in immediately because it's so huge, and you have to load up everyone's avatar. And this kind of stuff is why any VR space designed for Joanne Everyperson has to be more simple. It has to have a built-in, pre-installed suite of tools and building blocks to make its basic default worlds and avatars from, because it just makes it more reliable for all of the users. And that's why Mark is going that route to begin with. Think along the lines of how Nintendo did their Mii avatars, or how Xbox did their custom avatars. And there are already businesses trying to get on this de facto default, assembled from kit style avatars for use across VR platforms. Ready Player Me is one, and their design your own avatar from a parts bin kind of approach can make some fairly decent looking avatars with at least some individualistic personality, and they integrate across several VR platforms already, so that seems quite promising. I've been keeping an eye on that. But the irony, well, ironic in the Alanis Morissette way is, of course, that CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg and his venture capitalist leeches and friends are among the richest people on the planet of the Earth, and they have more money than they could possibly actually spend in any reasonable way or amount of time. They could spend in one day the equivalent of every dollar everyone you personally know makes in a year combined, and they wouldn't even notice. And these sickeningly covetous monsters of pure avarice are attempting to build an all-encompassing metaverse, but must, by their own designs and desires, to enslave as many users as possible to their own little proprietary networks, must be utterly crippled and hamstrung by the limitations of designing for the cheapest hardware possible. Because these obscenely, absurdly, rottingly, revoltingly, disgustingly rich people, long since decoupled from whatever once served as a human soul, know that the only way not to just keep getting richer, but to do a Facebook and sociopathically and parasitically suck as many people dry as possible, is to be the de facto monopoly, and the only way to do that is to target the lowest common denominator spender. They're not interested in humanity or advancing the way we communicate or individuality or any further than it can lead them to people's wallets and their personal data to mine and package and sell. And that just means Mark's horrific vision of the VR future has to work on the cheapest hardware, otherwise his reach won't go far enough for his tastes. And that means it looks like someone's first day trying to make a game for the Nintendo Wii. Mark Zuckerberg and folk like him desperately trying to build capitalistic-driven metaverses, they intend and want to be the one and only place where people enter this new hyper-capitalist internet mutant, just like he wanted Facebook to be the place where countless morons are fed ever tighter loops of echo chamber, vapid as fuck content so they can be tracked, trained, spied on, manipulated, marketed to, and consumed. You think you're the consumer? No, you're the consumed in this little story of Mark Zuckerberg's. And if you think I'm exaggerating, if you think I'm being hyperbolic, then you simply haven't been paying attention, or are possibly simply too young to remember the pre-Facebook days of the internet and how things were. And this is not rose-colored glasses. I mean, the internet is better now than it was for many, many things, but not all things. Mark's metaverse is, I very, very deeply hope, utterly doomed to pathetic and miserable failure. Because if there is a future in which at least some of most everyday people's social and collaborative existence exists in an immersive VR or AR virtualized world of some kind, then I don't want to see it sucked dry of every spark of actual human spirit. I don't know if VRchat here is the future, but it is a prototype of what it should and could be. This is why so many are drawn to things like VRchat, and before it, things like Second Life, where you had similar freedom of how you presented yourself in avatar form, and how you role-played, and how you interacted, and the kinds of worlds you existed in. These are spaces where we, as people, are unleashed from how the lottery of genetics and the dictates of social expectations and practicality of clothing and general appearance will not restrict personal expression one little bit. Have you been watching the clips of the VRchat stuff that I recorded closely? Did you see a pattern, or more specifically, an utter lack of a pattern? Freed of the social constructs and physical limitations of personal appearance, this is how free minds choose to represent themselves, or at the very least, how they play a role they wish they could be for an evening, for an afternoon, whatever. Now, I'll grant you that the demographic and subcultures currently attracted to things like VRchat is not entirely representative of the larger community of regular folk who, people like Mark are trying to target. But let me ask you this. When you go on social media, the normal social media, Twitter, TikTok, whatever, how many people's avatars do you see that truly represent how that person looks? Even the ones which are legitimately just photos of the account user. How many of those photo avatars are free from filters? How many are genuine, simple snapshots? How many were labored over? Careful makeup, careful lighting, careful angle choices, high angles to hide double chins or hide fatter than they'd like bodies. How many use careful editing to hide flaws? How many, bring in props to make their lives look flashy and stylistic, and champagne flutes and beaches and scenery behind them? Just now ask yourself, of these people who do choose to show the online social spaces their own human faces instead of an abstracted avatar of some kind, albeit a carefully chosen and idealized and often edited and adjusted version of their real face, how many of these people, so careful and intent on showing the world an idealized, vanity-driven version of themselves as possible, how many would choose to wander around with avatars like this? Even the people who want their own faces, to be represented reasonably faithfully, vaguely faithfully, do you think those vanity people would want to run around a VR space like this? To close, I'm going to reiterate something I said earlier. Zuckerberg's vision for the future of VR social spaces is a nightmare of bland banality, corporate sterilization, sucked dry of any and every spark of true humanity, creativity, individuality, and personal expression. This rant was way longer than I intended. The idea was to make this like a 5-minute video of just mocking Mark Zuckerberg and his stupid, ugly avatar and his bitch basic Nintendo 64 worlds he wants us to run around and collaborate. But it turns out I had a lot more to say on the issue than I originally thought. So thank you for watching. If you did watch all the way to the end, thank you very much for all your attention. I know it's difficult in this day and age of the internet to give me so much attention. Hopefully along the way you've subbed and belled and done all the things that helps on the YouTubes and whatnot. Thank you for watching. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling up above there. Your above and beyond support is deeply appreciated, and I'll see you out there. Maybe I'll even see you in VRchat sometimes. I'm not here all the time, but I'll pop in from time to time. Bye.